Maybe if I'm there, I can stop him from finalizing it. And maybe if I'm there, then I can sort of say, well, let's not make any decisions today.
Listen, it's not gonna change what our relationship, ours has been for years. Nothing's gonna change.
Do you promise?
It didn't hit all at once. It started with a single sentence buried in a Reddit thread, barely noticed by the casual fans, but it sent longtime Sister Wives followers into an instant spiral. Meri was never a threat. That's why Robyn needed her to stay. From there, everything unraveled. Suddenly, old clips took on new meaning. Robyn's pleading, her tears, her desperate insistence that the family wasn't blending right, they weren't just emotional outbursts. They were strategic. That's the theory flooding fan forums anyway, and this time, the receipts are stacking up fast. According to insiders, Robyn's entire polygamist endgame depended on one thing, keeping Meri exactly where she was. Isolated, powerless, but still on the books. Not as a wife, not really, more like a buffer, a spiritual placeholder who kept Robyn's kingdom intact.
I was up at the bed and breakfast this past weekend, and it needs me.
What does that mean, Meri?
So it means, and it's all coupled with everything else that's been going on and the statements that Cody has made to me this year, that I probably won't be renewing my lease here. I'm not saying anything about this property because my intention has always been to build here.
And then just, it's like a temporary sort of situation.
I don't know.
Okay.
But now that Meri's officially severed her spiritual ties and the public knows it, fans are screaming one word louder than all the rest: betrayal. What triggered the sudden uproar wasn't Meri's exit itself. That had been building for years. What shook people was the eerie silence that followed. Robyn didn't post. Cody barely blinked. But in the background, quiet whispers started to surface from sources allegedly close to the family's inner circle. One message in particular made rounds across several platforms before being quietly deleted. She was the perfect sister wife because she never got in the way. She kept sending money and never asked questions. That line alone, real or not, was enough to reignite years of buried suspicion. Did Robyn truly see Meri not as a sister or friend, but as a useful ghost? Someone emotionally discarded but financially convenient? It wouldn't be the first time Sister Wives fans felt like they were watching a different show than what TLC was airing. And now, the fan base is in full detective mode. Screenshots are being compared, timelines reassembled, financial contributions rescrutinized. One fan even claimed to have tracked down old footage showing Meri helping Robyn move, despite Robyn already being legally married to Cody at that point. She wasn't just helping, the commenter noted, she was serving.
Meri is saying that she needs to move. What I really want to do is just say, no, please don't do this.
And that's what's got everyone rattled, because when you rewatch some of those early Las Vegas seasons through this lens, Robyn's crocodile tears start to look a lot more calculated. Maybe it really wasn't about keeping the family together. Maybe it was always about keeping her household the most intact. And Meri was the decoy. But if Robyn's plan was to keep that narrative quiet forever, then she underestimated one thing: how fiercely fans would rally when they smell a setup.
It feels like the only time you talk to them is when they need something or when you need to give them information. So
if I don't need to focus on healing a relationship, but I would.
You'd be the only one.
But I would be the only one. And that's how it always was, or for, not always, but for many years before, I was the only one.
And now that they've found a trail, they're not letting go. Not until every piece is laid bare. Because according to some insiders, the financial part of this story, that's where it gets explosive. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Back in the Las Vegas days, everything looked shinier on the outside. 4 homes in a cul-de-sac, fresh starts, new beginnings. But according to fan theorists and insiders alike, this was the era when Robyn's long game really started taking shape. The surface-level narrative was about unity, but behind closed doors, sources allege Robyn had a very specific blueprint. And Meri, she was the cornerstone, not of love or sisterhood, but of leverage.
I had this bond with her, and I'm now questioning, why tell me that you want to have a relationship with me and then ghost me for months and months and months?
Robyn reportedly saw her not as a threat, but as the ideal prototype. Someone who'd been pushed out by Cody emotionally, had no younger children in the home, and yet still showed up, still paid in, still kept the spiritual tie intact. Fans are calling it the Queen Bee strategy. Keep just enough sister wives on the roster to validate the polygamist image, while locking down a monogamous lifestyle in practice. One Reddit user put it plainly: Meri was like a security deposit on Robyn's throne. She never cashed it out, but it guaranteed the castle stayed hers. The theory hinges on one detail many fans overlooked in real time: how often Robyn sang Meri's praises after Cody had emotionally discarded her. "You're still part of the family," Robyn would say. "You matter." But looking back, that language feels loaded, almost like a script. Because as long as Meri remained spiritually sealed and financially cooperative, Robyn didn't need her to be happy. She just needed her to be present. It's that passive loyalty Robyn allegedly craved, the kind that asks no questions, causes no waves, and keeps the money pot full.
I used to hang out with Meri and Cody before I even married Cody, and they always were just goofy together. They had their arguments for sure. We were in it for the long haul, we were figuring it out, and there was a lot of emotional growth, I think, that came from all of us trying to figure out how to work the family around all the different personalities.
Insiders claim Robyn played her cards expertly. While Janelle and Christine pushed back, questioned spending, and made their independence clear, Meri slowly faded into the role of safe sister wife. And Robyn, with her background in more segmented polygamist households, allegedly preferred it that way. In her previous family setup, the wives lived apart and barely interacted. That's what she reportedly expected here: quiet compartmentalization, and Meri fit the mold, until she didn't. Because Meri's decision to formally seek release from her spiritual marriage wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. And some fans now believe it was a direct hit at Robyn, not Cody. Think about it. Robyn had bet everything on appearances. The more intact the spiritual structure looked, the more legitimacy she had, not just on Earth but in the afterlife, per the beliefs they once publicly shared. Meri cutting that cord sent a clear message: I see the game and I'm done playing. But here's the twist: Robyn may have underestimated just how many eyes were already watching. Because now that Meri's gone public with her emotional break and spiritual exit, the questions are shifting. What was really keeping Meri around all those years? And who, if anyone, benefited from that arrangement the most? All signs are pointing in one direction. And next, we're following the money. If there's one thing fans have learned from over a decade of watching Sister Wives, it's this.
I'm safe for them, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, the reason I'm asking that is because we're not having those discussions.
I don't know for sure, but I think religion is a really intense topic for you. You get a little intense.
Okay.
When emotions get messy, follow the money. And in Robyn's case, that trail might be longer and murkier than anyone realized. Sources close to the production whisper that for years, family finances weren't just blended, they were tangled. Each wife was expected to contribute, whether from book sales, boutique businesses, or side hustles. But where the money ended up? That's where things start to raise eyebrows. Rumor has it, many of those family contributions wound up benefiting Robyn's household more than anyone else's, especially once the Vegas move solidified her position as Cody's de facto partner. And Meri, allegedly, she kept paying in long after her emotional ties were severed. Several fans have pointed out a strange pattern in old episodes. Whenever there was a major purchase, say Robyn's home, her nanny, or her children's tutoring, no one ever quite explained where the funds came from. There were vague references to family money or shared resources, but now that Christine and Janelle have spoken openly about feeling financially shortchanged, it's hard not to re-examine those moments. One particularly fiery Reddit thread did the math based on available property records, boutique timelines, and TLC salaries. Their theory: Robyn's household may have quietly benefited from tens of thousands more in pooled cash than her sister wives ever saw, and who allegedly helped float that pot for years. You guessed it, Meri.
Robyn and I like to get the kids special gifts on Valentine's Day, so we got Ariel a vanity. We're gonna build that for her.
Did you get reservations for tonight?
I am Mr. Valentine's Day, aren't I?
For Valentine's Day, in a plural family, it's a really complicated holiday.
Insiders allege that after Robyn joined the family, Cody subtly shifted his expectations. Janelle, known for her business acumen, began pushing for financial autonomy. Christine eventually followed suit. But Meri, perhaps out of loyalty, guilt, or just habit, she kept pouring her profits into the shared account, even as her own emotional needs went unmet.
He's just not a fair person. He's very greedy when it comes down to money.
Why?
I think that he's gonna screw Meri and Janelle completely.
Fans recall scenes where Meri seemed hesitant to speak up about money, even when others clearly were. One moment in particular, where Robyn cried about needing help with her mortgage, still strikes a nerve. Meri didn't protest. She offered support, but now that generosity feels like it may have been weaponized. Some speculate that Robyn didn't just benefit from the cash flow, she depended on it. Her online jewelry boutique, My Sister Wife's Closet, has been dormant for years. Her other business ventures never seem to take off.
I didn't know who she was. When we got married, she was very different. And I think just there's some baggage that Meri had that I didn't know about. Initially, I felt like I could live with it. I mean, here, baby, want a piece of gum? You know I don't like spearmint. I can't live in a world where she is constantly angry at me.
Yet somehow, her household remained well-stocked and financially stable, at least on the surface. And with the kids in private lessons, the nanny on payroll, and a $900,000-plus home to maintain, fans are wondering, where did it all come from? It's that question that's driving a new wave of speculation. Because if Robyn was sitting on a golden goose, quietly funded by wives she emotionally cut off, then this isn't just a case of favoritism. It's a potential financial betrayal that's gone unnoticed for years. And according to whispers from someone allegedly close to Meri, the paper trail may not be lost. It might be hiding in plain sight: screen grabs, bank records, transfers labeled family, and more. And if that evidence exists, it's only a matter of time before someone drops it, because word on the street is, Meri's not the only one keeping receipts. They say still waters run deep, but in Meri's case, those waters might have been quietly recording every ripple. According to one alleged insider, Meri didn't just walk away with emotional scars, she walked away with screenshots. Years of PayPal logs, flagged Venmo transfers, odd family fund deductions she didn't recognize, and monthly withdrawals that conveniently aligned with Robyn's expenses. None of this is confirmed, but fans are already treating it like gospel. On TikTok and Reddit, the phrase "Meri kept the receipts" is practically a rallying cry. And if even half of what's being whispered turns out to be true, then Robyn's image as the faithful last wife standing could be heading for a spectacular fall. One post making the rounds claims that Meri's turning point wasn't about love or loss, it was about bookkeeping. The moment she realized her boutique earnings were disappearing into a black hole of family expenses, she reportedly started saving everything, not just for herself, but in case the day came when the gaslighting got too loud to ignore. And now that she's spiritually released and publicly disconnected, fans believe that day might have arrived. Screenshots allegedly exist of outgoing payments made to accounts tied to Robyn's side of the family. One particularly juicy claim suggests a recurring transfer labeled only as support services that aligned almost perfectly with the timeline when Robyn's now infamous nanny appeared. And then there's the message Meri reportedly sent to a close friend late last year, a tearful voice note never released but heavily paraphrased by someone who claims to have heard it. In it, Meri allegedly says, "I thought we were building a family. I didn't realize I was funding a lifestyle." That line alone has been quoted, memed, and stitched into fan videos across platforms. It's the sentence that seems to capture everything. Because if Robyn truly positioned Meri as a spiritual benchwarmer, a passive contributor with no real seat at the table, then this was never just about emotion. It was about extraction. The emotional betrayal is bad enough, but when you add in possible financial manipulation, that's when things start crossing into legal gray areas. Not criminal necessarily, but morally murky enough to spark fan fury, especially among women who've been married, who've stayed too long, paid too much, silenced themselves for the sake of keeping a connection that in hindsight was only ever flowing one way. And this is exactly why the fan base isn't letting it go. They don't just want Robyn's version of the story anymore. They want the numbers. And if the rumors are true that Meri still has the receipts, and that more than one former family member is now comparing notes, then this financial reckoning may only just be beginning. Because guess who else is rumored to be watching all of this unfold? Quietly but very, very closely? Janelle. And the moment she gets confirmation of what fans are starting to suspect, everything could change. Leave it to Reddit to connect the dots faster than any network producer ever could. While TLC was serving up family dinners and soft-focus confessionals, a growing legion of sleuths online were poring over property records, timestamps, boutique launch dates, and even the backgrounds of Robyn's selfie videos. Every vase, every couch, every shopping bag. And what they've started to piece together has fans reeling. The theory that Robyn wasn't just passively benefiting from the family's shared funds. She may have been orchestrating her image of financial need while living far more comfortably than anyone realized. And Meri, she may have been one of the last to catch on. One post, now nearing 30,000 upvotes, breaks it down like a true forensic audit. The user charted every known income stream for each wife during the Las Vegas years, Meri's boutique earnings, Janelle's real estate work, Christine's cooking ventures, and then laid that against major purchases made by Robyn's household. The timing? Suspiciously convenient. Robyn's new home purchase lined up with Christine's biggest cookbook sales quarter. Private school tuition reportedly followed a spike in boutique website traffic. And fans noticed that while the other wives often filmed in cluttered or half-furnished spaces, Robyn's home, spotless, fully decorated, renovated, and always paid for. Even more damning are the lingering questions around My Sister Wife's closet. Launched with fanfare, the business never quite delivered. Orders were delayed, inventory was sparse, and eventually it just vanished. Yet, insiders claim the site generated a surprising amount of cash in its first 2 years, with most of the back end reportedly managed by Robyn and Cody. So where did that money go? Fans are now asking whether the so-called joint business was just another funnel, one that pulled in community goodwill and spat out confusion, especially since, rumor has it, Robyn rarely split profits beyond the initial investment phase. But what's really blowing people's minds isn't just the timeline, it's the repetition. The pattern of Robyn claiming emotional hardship just as big financial decisions were on the table. A mortgage crisis here, a nanny emergency there, a jewelry relaunch that quietly disappeared, and all the while she kept the victim narrative front and center. "I just want my family to work," she'd say. "I didn't sign up for this chaos." And yet somehow her household kept running like a well-oiled machine while others floundered. That contrast has become impossible to ignore. Fans are rewatching old episodes with new eyes, freeze-framing Cody's body language every time money comes up. And more than a few are whispering the same thing. Someone's been playing the long game. But Robyn may not be the only one whose blind spots are catching up to her. Because Janelle, ever the pragmatist, has allegedly started asking questions she once pushed aside. And if she's now comparing notes with Meri, the next chapter could be even messier. Because while the emotional toll is deep, the financial fallout, that's where things are about to erupt. If there's one thing Robyn never counted on, it was Janelle and Christine circling back. For years, they'd played it cool. Janelle focused on financial survival, Christine on emotional freedom. But insiders now whisper that recent revelations have stirred something in both of them. Not just anger, but resolve. What started as murmurs in the background, Meri keeping receipts, Robyn's spending patterns, the silent money trail, has reportedly made its way into real conversations between the ex-wives. And according to one source, the phrase spiritual release has come up more than once, loudly, and with purpose. Christine, of course, was the first to physically walk away, but spiritually, she left the seal intact, perhaps out of indifference or maybe just exhaustion. Janelle, on the other hand, always seemed to keep one foot in and one foot out. Her relationship with Cody had long been transactional, almost like co-owners of a failing business. But now that she's seen the full extent of the alleged financial disparity, how Robyn's household seemed to thrive, while hers struggled, sources say her patience has snapped. What once felt like tolerable favoritism now looks, in her eyes, like exploitation. And this time, Janelle's not alone. Word is, she's been quietly syncing timelines with Christine, asking subtle but pointed questions like, "Did you ever see where those payments went?" Or "Was Robyn ever transparent about the nanny costs?" Insiders close to the family claim there's been a quiet but serious effort by the ex-wives to retrace the financial pathways TLC never aired. And if even half of what they're piecing together lines up, it could reshape how fans view everything from the Vegas cul-de-sac days to the Arizona move to the infamous one-home debate that nearly broke the family in two. Because let's not forget, Robyn wasn't just Cody's favorite. She was also the one whispering ideas in his ear, pitching herself as the emotional glue, and allegedly the one controlling more of the narrative than anyone realized. That kind of influence paired with financial access created a dangerous dynamic, one where Robyn could position herself as the wounded party while quietly securing the most resources, attention, and emotional bandwidth. Janelle and Christine, once too exhausted to challenge it, now seem ready to push back. And fans are loving every second of it. Comment sections are flooded with messages like, "Finally," and "It's about time the other wives compare notes." Because whether or not legal lines were crossed, the optics alone are damning. And in a world where spiritual standing has been used as currency, revoking that status, that's the biggest slap of all. So now the question isn't just whether Janelle will request a release, it's what happens next if she does. Because according to AOB doctrine, Robyn needs 3 sealed wives to maintain the illusion. And if she's down to 2, the cracks could become irreversible. Cody Brown has always played a precarious game, juggling not just wives but reputations, power dynamics, and public scrutiny. But according to sources close to the production, nothing rattled him more than the suggestion that the financial tables might turn against him and Robyn. When whispers of a brewing confrontation between the ex-wives surfaced, Cody didn't stay silent. Allegedly, he lashed out first at Janelle for snooping, then at Meri for airing dirty laundry, and finally at Christine for poisoning the family legacy. But here's the thing, the louder he gets, the more desperate he looks. And insiders claim that behind that bluster, there's something much more fragile: panic. The trigger, some say, was a recent conversation that wasn't meant to reach Robyn's ears. It allegedly happened at the bed and breakfast Meri manages during one of those awkwardly cordial visits where the tension buzzes just under the surface. A mutual acquaintance reportedly overheard Meri mention transfers she never agreed to, and Janelle replying, "That's theft if it's true." That exchange, while unverified, set off alarm bells. According to a source who claims to be familiar with Cody's mindset, he's now terrified that receipts could go public, not because he fears jail time, but because he fears the one thing he can't charm or bully his way out of, a breach of contract with TLC. Let's not forget, this show runs on image. Cody's image as the head of the family, Robyn's image as the misunderstood last wife standing. But if the public starts to see their union not as sacred but strategic, not as emotional but exploitative, that ruins everything. Viewers tune in for drama, yes, but also for some semblance of sincerity. If it turns out one wife was allegedly siphoning resources under the guise of unity while Cody turned a blind eye, or worse, helped arrange it, that doesn't just fracture fan loyalty, it undermines the entire brand, and it's not just viewers he has to worry about. Insiders claim TLC has already grown wary of the increasingly lopsided narrative. There have been hushed rumors about legal teams reviewing past contracts, specifically clauses around financial disclosure. Because if Cody and Robyn knowingly accepted pooled funds without documenting where they went, or if they encouraged certain wives to contribute without equal say, there could be grounds for a serious behind-the-scenes shakeup. Not criminal charges necessarily, but canceled renewals, public fallout, and a very awkward reunion special. Word is, Cody's recent tantrums behind closed doors aren't just about losing the women, they're about losing control. And when men like Cody lose control, they scramble. Allegedly, he's been trying to reason with Meri, offering vague promises and teary apologies, hoping she'll stay quiet. But Meri, according to one source, is done playing the spiritual martyr. And with Janelle and Christine both watching closely, he may be outnumbered in a way that finally matters. Because Robyn might be the queen, but if her foundation starts to crack, Cody's entire kingdom could come down with it. Something's shifted. You can feel it in the way women over 50 are showing up in droves across comment sections, Facebook groups, and private forums, not with gossip, but with lived experience. This latest twist in the Sister Wives saga has struck a deeper nerve, and it's not just about Meri or even Robyn. It's about the pattern, the overlooked wife, the emotional breadcrumbing, the long con that only becomes obvious after you've given away too much for too long. And that's exactly why this isn't fading into just another reality TV scandal. It's becoming a cultural flashpoint. Viewers, especially those who've lived through uneven partnerships, unpaid emotional labor, or decades of financial ambiguity, aren't just watching anymore. They're relating, and they're angry. Dozens of viral posts from self-identified fans in their 50s and 60s say the same thing in different words. I was Meri. Or worse, I was married to Robyn. One particularly poignant thread described Robyn as the kind of woman who weaponizes fragility to climb over others and still play the victim. That post alone got tens of thousands of shares, with responses pouring in from all over the country. This isn't just fan chatter anymore, it's a collective reckoning. Even mainstream outlets are picking up the scent. Recent articles have highlighted what they call Robyn's empathy paradox, how she projects emotional vulnerability while allegedly engaging in power hoarding. Experts have chimed in, comparing her televised tactics to real-world manipulation patterns often seen in unequal marriages, over-apologizing, crocodile tears, deflection through self-pity. And when you lay that over a financial narrative where only one wife got the big house, the legal marriage, and the lion's share of resources, the optics are damning. Then came the fan-made infographics. Yes, infographics. Detailed timelines showing who paid what, when certain houses were bought, and how the family bank account appeared to work or not work. One graphic drew particular attention, a side-by-side image of Christine selling handmade jewelry to pay her bills, while Robyn reportedly paid for a nanny during lockdown, despite not working outside the home herself. The caption read simply, "Guess who sacrificed more?" All of this is fueling a wildfire of public opinion that's now far beyond Robyn's control. And with every quiet move Meri makes, every cryptic quote Janelle shares, and every empowering video Christine posts, fans are connecting more dots. It's no longer about jealousy or jealous wives, it's about a growing realization that polygamy in this case may have functioned more like a pyramid scheme, one where the top got security and the bottom got excuses. And with that realization comes a dangerous momentum, because the more viewers identify with the betrayal, the more they demand a reckoning. And if even one sealed wife formally walks away next, the domino effect could reach far beyond the family, including into the very belief system that's kept Robyn's throne so protected until now. The spiritual stakes of this whole unraveling might be the most explosive piece still ticking quietly beneath the surface. Because while most viewers have tuned in for the family drama, the real pressure lies in something much more eternal. At least in Robyn's world. For her, this isn't just about relationships falling apart, it's about the structure of her salvation collapsing, and insiders say she knows it. See, in the AOB belief system, the one the Browns were publicly tied to for years, men sealed to multiple wives carry those marriages into the afterlife. In theory, that spiritual arrangement creates a celestial family, but here's the catch. It only holds weight if the wives remain sealed. And if Meri, Janelle, and Christine all sever those ties, then Robyn isn't one of 3 celestial queens. She's just a woman in a broken-down monogamy with no kingdom waiting on the other side. That's why fans are now speculating that Robyn fought so hard to keep Meri spiritually tethered. It wasn't about love, it was about math. 3 wives sealed equals eternal legitimacy. 2 or fewer, that plural family card starts to crumble. According to whispers from former church members, this kind of unraveling doesn't just create personal pain, it brings social consequences. Once a man's spiritual ceilings are seen as invalid or severed, his standing in the community diminishes, and Robyn, despite Cody's erratic relationship with the church in recent years, reportedly still clings tightly to those celestial ideals. Which means every time one of the OG wives walks away, she loses more than status. She loses the afterlife plan she built her entire adult life around. That fear of spiritual freefall may explain why Robyn's responses to Meri's release felt so panicked, even desperate. One fan described her on-screen pleading as less about heartbreak, more about cornered strategy. And when Christine left, the reaction was oddly quiet. But now, with Meri gone and Janelle reportedly weighing her own spiritual exit, sources say Robyn is on the verge of collapse. Not just emotionally, but structurally, because with each woman who cuts that eternal cord, Robyn's leverage slips. Her claim to the Brown family legacy becomes shakier, and most importantly, the image of her as the faithful wife left behind no longer sells. That loss of narrative is what really stings. For years, Robyn's tears and trembling voice earned her sympathy. She positioned herself as the misunderstood newcomer who just wanted harmony. But now, the illusion is crumbling, and what's left behind looks far more calculated. Every spiritual tie severed is one more confirmation that the sister wives weren't just drifting, they were escaping. And the closer Janelle gets to signing that spiritual release, the more fans feel it. The last domino is wobbling. And Robyn? She's staring straight at a future she never prepared for. A future without control, without community, and worst of all, without the celestial crown she thought she'd secured forever. Robyn's world, once propped up by carefully measured words and an image of unwavering faith, is now teetering on the edge, and for the first time, she doesn't seem to have a script. Insiders say TLC cameras are still rolling, catching every glance, every nervous laugh, every strained attempt to spin the narrative. But behind the scenes, there are whispers of lawyers getting involved, of Meri and Janelle comparing not just emotional timelines but financial records, and of Christine, never one to look back, allegedly being approached to film final thoughts in case the network decides to end the series with a reckoning instead of a reunion. No one's confirming anything yet, but fans can feel it. Something irreversible is coming. What happens when the perfect sister-wife narrative shatters? When viewers realize the woman who cried about unity may have quietly built her kingdom on the backs of those she called sisters? That's what's happening now. Robyn's years of softly spoken justifications, her public image as the peacemaker, those are being reevaluated under a harsher light. The financial inconsistencies, the spiritual desperation, the selective loyalty, it all paints a picture that's harder to sympathize with. And perhaps most telling of all, Cody has reportedly gone quiet, not in a graceful, introspective way, but in a retreating, damage-controlled silence that fans interpret as fear of exposure, of backlash, of having no wives left to defend him. And while Robyn might have once imagined herself as the last one standing in a celestial kingdom of loyalty and devotion, the reality is looking far lonelier, because standing alone isn't power. Not when the people you stood on are finally speaking out. Not when the sister wives you quietly underestimated are comparing notes, healing old wounds, and letting the public in on what they endured. Robyn may have won Cody, but the cost? She may have lost the very foundation she believed would protect her forever: spiritual status, fan sympathy, and control over the family legacy. And now, with Meri spiritually gone and Janelle inching closer to release, Christine thriving in her freedom, Robyn is facing something she never planned for: being outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and out of narrative. So here's where it ends or begins. Will Robyn fight for the image she's so carefully preserved? Will she spin the wives' spiritual exits as betrayal, or finally face the roles she played in pushing them away? And if she does double down, will anyone still believe her? What do you think? Was Robyn always planning this perfect sister-wife setup from the start, or did the power just slowly shift in her favor? And if Janelle walks too, is Robyn's legacy as the last wife standing over for good? Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video on your screen is waiting, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.